There's no question about it. Breaking up is hard to do. We're not taught anywhere along the way how to handle a breakup with care and responsibility. Breakups are emotionally taxing and incredibly complicated. Whether you are the one initiating the end of the relationship or on the receiving end of your partner's ending, there are some things that you can do to ease the pain of goodbye. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I'm an author, a professor, and a couples therapist, and I'm passionate about providing people with the tools they need to create happy and healthy, intimate relationships. In this video, we're going to talk about 4 different reasons why breakups are so incredibly hard. And for each of those 4 reasons, we're going to talk about some things you can do to take care of yourself while you are in the throes of this complicated ending. Reason number 1 is that the language of breakups is loaded, unhelpful, and judgmental. We don't even have, think about the terms we use for people who are in the end of a relationship. We don't really have great terms, do we? The best we have is the term dumper and dumpee, and that is awful to frame it in that way, right? The person, but we sometimes need a way of talking about the person initiating the ending and the person on the receiving end of the ending. We don't have great language around that. And it's because I think that for so long, fear and shame and stigma have shrouded the end of relationships. Divorce continues to be rather stigmatized, though I think we've made some progress in helping people who are moving through divorce not add the pain of shame on top of the pain of going through a divorce. But one of the reasons that breakups are hard is that we just lack great language to talk about endings, and that oftentimes we equate an ending with the failure of a relationship. Even the word breakup is the idea that something has been broken. And so part of that pain that you carry through the end of a relationship can be that sense of shame, that the fact that you're going through a breakup means somehow you failed. Sometimes what can make the breakup so painful also is that for as complicated as divorce is, at least people who are divorcing have the support of their community around them, because we live in a world that has held marriage up above any other kind of intimate relationship. And so the weird kind of booby prize that people who are divorcing get is that because we equate marriage with the penultimate kind of relationship, it means we grant a kind of severity and care to those who are going through divorce. We validate it as an incredibly disruptive experience, right? Because it's the counter to the narrative of how important marriage is. So the plus side of going through a divorce is at least oftentimes people who are divorcing have the support of people around them, the validation that this is a really horrific, painful, complicated situation. Those who are going through a breakup of an intimate relationship, no matter the length, oftentimes the pain is amplified by the fact that it's a breakup, not a divorce, and that the people around you may not be taking that ending with the kind of care, severity, and attention that it deserves. So what can you do about it? What you can do about it is validate for yourself that your goodbye, whether it's the end of a 6-month relationship, whether it's the end of an ambiguously defined relationship, or whether it's the end of a marriage, you can know for yourself that this is heavy and this is serious and that you need to practice an immense amount of self-care. The other thing you can do is notice times at which your language becomes a reflection of this larger cultural narrative that has falsely equated breaking up with failure. So notice if you're starting to fall into that language of I've been dumped or I've been broken up with in a way that is kind of amplifying or reinforcing the shame. Try this language out instead. The relationship is complete. The relationship has run its course. The relationship is no longer sustainable. The relationship has ended. Even just that language is a way of you being mindful to ensure that your language is setting you up to not add the suffering of shame on top of the pain of loss. Reason number 2 that breakups are so hard is because hurt hurts. The research is clear. Our brains code physical pain in the same way they code emotional pain. And so the hurt, even though emotional pain ought to be held up as real in and of itself, if you need further scientific evidence that you are fully entitled to the emotional pain of breakup, it's because you can validate it for yourself by reminding yourself that your brain is actually coding your emotional pain the same way it would be coding the physical pain of a broken leg or a wound that's on your skin. That hurt is hurt is hurt. Dr. Sue Johnson, in her book Love Sense, gives 2 examples of how this plays out. She talks about how women in childbirth who have emotional support around them literally physically experience less pain during childbirth. And the flip side is that Tylenol can ease the pain of heartbreak. So, further verification that physical pain and emotional pain are all kind of living inside of us in the same way. So what can you do about the fact that breakups are hard because hurt hurts? The first thing you can do is just validate it for yourself. Sometimes we make our pain worse by telling ourselves that we aren't entitled to the pain. And we have all kinds of clever ways that we abandon ourselves and invalidate our pain. We say things like, we weren't together very long. We say things like the relationship wasn't even a clearly defined relationship. We say things like, they were no good for me anyways. All of those things can be true, and the hurt is incredibly real. So the first thing you can do is validate it for yourself. You can also trust that the way out is through. Us therapists love using that expression. The way out is through. You can't leave an emotional state until you have arrived in it. So let yourself feel the heaviness of the hurt and the sadness and the anger. Let yourself really arrive in that, trusting and knowing that emotions are like waves. They have an arc. They can't last forever. And as you allow yourself to feel into it, you will find that that's what helps you move through it and begin to kind of put your head around it, integrate, and start to move forward. The more that you can accept how painful goodbye is, the more you can commit to your own self-care during this really raw period. And self-care looks like however it looks for you, but it includes things like rest and hydration and making mindful choices around food and alcohol so that you're nourishing your body, because your body is your vessel that's helping you move these powerful emotions through. So rest and good food, connection with allies and people who have your back, and moving your body. Those are all ways that you can practice good self-care while your body and your heart and your mind and your spirit carry the heaviness of this goodbye. The third reason that breakups hurt so much is that a breakup is going to awaken all of your experiences with loss. You are a story. We all are stories. Your story has many chapters. And if earlier chapters of your story included the pain of loss, either through another breakup or through death or through abandonment, I want you to really understand that the breakup you're experiencing right now is energetically and in a narrative sort of way chained to every other loss that you have experienced. So the heaviness of this relationship loss is amplified by other times that you have sat with loss. And so knowing that can help you just really honor that this is serious because you're feeling the pain of this loss and you're recalling, consciously or unconsciously, the pain of other losses that you have experienced. So what can you do about number 3, the fact that relationship breakups are hard because they're chained to all your other losses? What you can do is just know that for yourself, and for as sad as it is that this loss is tied to other losses, it also empowers you, because the fact that your life is a story means that you are the author of that story. And so you get to then write a new version of the story. And when you sit with this loss and other losses, you can actually use those old losses to fuel your resilience in this loss. How did you get through it last time? What did you learn from that earlier experience of loss? How did it shift you? How did it change you? How did you move through it a bit wiser, a bit kinder, a bit more compassionate? Carrying with you the lessons of those old losses and how they made you into the person you are today can help you remember that this loss is also going to be a teacher to you, and the sadness you feel now is slowly with time going to be replaced by the wisdom and the lessons that you gain from this loss, and that you get to carry all of that with you moving forward. Reason number 4 why breakups are so incredibly challenging is that a breakup is a loss of an imagined future. It's a saying goodbye to an imagined future. When we fall in love with somebody, we bring them in as a co-lead in the story of our lives. And we create a present together, but as we're falling in love, we aren't just enjoying the present together. We're also looking ahead, and we're imagining a future together. Sometimes that future lives inside our own minds, where we are imagining what a future with this person will look like. And sometimes that imagined future lives in the space between us and a partner, in the sculpting of hopes and dreams, in the setting of goals. So know that part of the pain of the breakup is the pain of the loss of this future that you now are not going to have with this person. The remedy for this 4th one is similar to the remedy for the 3rd one, which is just knowing that you are the author of your story. And this may be a loss that you didn't want, that you didn't ask for, that you prefer not to have in your life. But know that as you say goodbye to that imagined future, there is loss, but there's also the possibility for reclamation, for what you may take back now in this new version of your life that you're going to be living. And so holding on to that both and of the heaviness of the goodbye and the possibility of the life that you may now have the opportunity to live. There you have it, brave love warriors. Breakups are really, really hard to go through, and I want to validate the difficulty of saying goodbye. And I want to remind you that with the practice of relational self-awareness, with sitting carefully, compassionately, and curiously with your thoughts and feelings, you can come through an ending stronger and more resilient than you were before. For more on love, sex, and relationship, watch the next video in the playlist.